I had a gut feeling she was lying. Something felt off, but I had no proof until I set the perfect trap. What happened next? She never saw it coming. Watch until the end. And if you love shocking real-life betrayals, subscribe now for more. I always believed that trust was the foundation of any strong relationship. And when I proposed to my fiancée, I thought we had that trust. I thought we had everything. But I was wrong. Some people aren't who they pretend to be, and some secrets are just waiting to be exposed. It started with little things, subtle changes in her behavior. She had always been affectionate, always excited to spend time together. But recently, she had been distant, distracted. She started guarding her phone more, tilting the screen away from me whenever she got a message. When I asked her about it, she brushed it off, saying it was just work stress. At first, I believed her. Then came the canceled plans. We had always made time for each other, no matter how busy life got. But suddenly, she was always too tired, always had an excuse. And the worst part? She wasn't even trying to hide how often she was going out without me. Just a girl's night, she'd say. Nothing to worry about. But I was worried. And the more I paid attention, the more I noticed. The way she smiled at her phone, the way she laughed at messages she never shared with me. The way she suddenly started dressing up more, but never for our dates. Something wasn't right. I tried to ignore it. I told myself I was overthinking. But then, one night, I saw something that shattered any doubt I had left. She was in the shower, and her phone was on the nightstand, buzzing with a new message. I wasn't the kind of guy who checked my partner's phone, but this time I couldn't stop myself. I glanced at the screen. Can't wait to see you again. Last night was amazing. My blood ran cold. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. Jumping to conclusions wouldn't help. I needed to be smart. If she was lying to me, if she was cheating, I needed to catch her in a way she couldn't deny. So I came up with a plan. The next day, I told her I had to go on a business trip for the weekend. She barely reacted. No sadness. No complaints. Just a casual, "Okay, babe. Be safe." That only confirmed what I already suspected. If she was really cheating, this was her chance. That night, I packed a bag, kissed her goodbye, and walked out the door. But I didn't go far. I parked a few blocks away and waited. Hours passed. My heart pounded every time I saw a car drive by. Then, just after 10 p.m., I saw it. A black sedan pulled up in front of our house. My fiancé stepped outside, glancing around as if checking to see if anyone was watching. Then, a man got out of the car. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. She smiled at him, the same smile she used to give me. And then, right there in front of our home, she leaned in and kissed him. I felt a wave of anger surge through me, but I forced myself to stay still. Not yet. I needed more. I pulled out my phone and started recording. She led him inside, completely unaware that I was watching. And now I had all the proof I needed. But I wasn't going to confront her yet. No, I had something much bigger planned. And she was going to regret ever thinking she could lie to me. I sat in my car for what felt like hours, my hands gripping the phone so tightly I thought it might crack. I had proof. I had the undeniable evidence that my fiancée, the woman I had planned to spend my life with, was lying to me. And yet, as I stared at the footage on my screen, a sick feeling settled in my chest. I had suspected for weeks, maybe even months, but seeing it with my own eyes made it real in a way I hadn't been prepared for. The way she looked at him, the way she kissed him so easily as if she hadn't just promised me forever, it was enough to make my blood boil. I could have stormed in right then, thrown open the door and caught them in the act. But that wasn't enough. I wanted more than just a confrontation. I wanted her to feel the humiliation, the betrayal, the utter devastation she had so carelessly dumped on me. I wanted her to experience the moment when the truth came crashing down and there was no way to lie her way out of it. So I did the hardest thing I've ever done. I waited. I watched as the lights inside our home flickered on. I watched as shadows moved behind the curtains, their figures shifting together, close. My stomach twisted at the thought of what was happening inside, but I forced myself to stay calm. I wasn't going to react emotionally. I was going to be smart. I opened my phone and started taking screenshots of the footage, making sure I had everything I needed. I captured the exact moment she kissed him outside. The way she glanced around nervously before leading him inside. The timestamp, the location. There would be no denying this. No, it's not what it looks like. No excuses. Then I started planning. The next morning, before she even woke up, I was already in motion. She had no idea I had never left town. No idea that I had spent the night gathering every last detail of her betrayal. But she would find out soon enough. I made a few calls, set things in motion, and then sent her a simple text. Hey, babe. Miss you. Hope you're having a good weekend. She responded an hour later. I miss you too. Can't wait for you to come home. How's the trip? Lies. So effortless, so casual. She didn't feel an ounce of guilt. I clenched my jaw, my fingers tightening around my phone. But instead of replying, I went to work setting up the final phase of my plan. That afternoon I went home. Not through the front door, but through the security system app on my phone. A few months ago, I had installed cameras around the house mainly for security reasons. At the time, my fiancé had been annoyed, saying we didn't need them, that our neighborhood was safe. Now, I realized why she had been so against them. I pulled up the footage from the night before and watched in silence. I watched as she moved through the house, laughing, flirting, touching him in the ways she used to touch me. It was disgusting, but it was exactly what I needed. I downloaded the clips, carefully choosing the best ones, and then I prepared the final piece of my trap. That evening, I walked through the front door, acting as if nothing had happened. She greeted me with a hug, pressing herself against me like everything was normal, like she hadn't just spent the weekend in our home with another man. Hey, baby, she said, her voice sweet, her smile bright. How was the trip? I looked at her for a long moment, forcing my expression to stay neutral. Good, I said. But I missed you. She grinned, pulling me in for a kiss. I let her pretend, because she had no idea that in less than 24 hours, her entire world was going to come crashing down. The next 24 hours were the hardest part of my plan. I had to pretend like everything was normal, like I hadn't seen the truth with my own eyes. Every time she smiled at me, every time she touched me, every time she acted like the loving fiancée she was supposed to be, I felt my anger grow. But I didn't show it. Not yet. I had spent too much time planning this to let my emotions ruin it. She didn't suspect a thing. She went about her day as if nothing had happened, scrolling through her phone, humming to herself as she made coffee, casually chatting about weekend plans. I watched her closely, studying her body language. There wasn't a single trace of guilt, not even the slightest hesitation in her words. She had done this before. She had lied so many times that it came naturally to her. That realization only fueled my resolve. By midday, everything was in place. I had gathered all the evidence, videos, messages, timestamps, everything. I wasn't going to give her any room for excuses, no chance to twist the story. She was going to be exposed in the worst way possible. I sent out a few messages, made sure that the right people knew when and where to be. Then I set the final part of my trap. That evening, I suggested we have dinner at our favorite restaurant, the one where we had celebrated our engagement. She lit up at the idea, completely unaware that this night wasn't going to end the way she expected. Sounds perfect, she said, kissing my cheek. We haven't had a nice date night in so long. She had no idea how right she was. When we arrived at the restaurant, I made sure we were seated at a table in the center of the room. Somewhere public, somewhere she couldn't escape easily. I kept up the act, smiling, laughing at her small talk, letting her believe everything was fine. She had no idea that just across the room, a few familiar faces were watching, waiting. Then, when the moment was right, I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. I tapped the screen a few times, and suddenly, the large TV behind the bar flickered to life. Her face appeared on the screen. It was footage from our home security cameras, the ones she had been so against installing. The video showed her, clear as day, walking outside to greet him. It showed them kissing, holding hands, laughing like they didn't have a single care in the world. The room went silent. The people around us stopped eating, their conversations cutting off as they turned to look. I didn't say a word. I just watched her. At first, she didn't realize what was happening. She was still smiling at me mid-sentence when she finally noticed the way people were staring. Then she turned. Her breath hitched, her face drained of color. She turned back to me, eyes wide, mouth slightly open, completely frozen in shock. What is this?" she stammered. I leaned back in my chair, tilting my head slightly. "You tell me." She reached for my arm, her voice dropping to a desperate whisper. "Turn it off." I pulled my arm away, my expression unreadable. "Why?" She swallowed hard, her hands trembling now. We shouldn't be doing this here." I let out a small laugh, shaking my head. "Why not? You had no problem doing it in our home. Why should you care if other people see it now?" She looked around, her breathing uneven, panic setting in as she realized how many people were watching. "Please," she whispered, her eyes welling with tears. But I wasn't done yet. I tapped my phone again, and the next video played. This one was different: messages, text screenshots, her words, her lies, her plans with him. She gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "Oh my God," she choked out. I leaned in, lowering my voice just enough that only she could hear. "You thought you could play me? Thought I'd never find out?" I shook my head, my tone laced with disappointment. "You were wrong." Tears spilled down her cheeks, but I felt nothing. No pity, no sadness, just a cold satisfaction. She opened her mouth to say something, maybe to beg, maybe to lie again, but before she could, I stood up. "We're done," I said simply. Then I turned and walked away, leaving her sitting there in the wreckage of her own making. And as I stepped outside, breathing in the night air, I realized something. I had won. As I walked out of the restaurant, the cool night air hit me like a wave of clarity. I had done it. I had set the perfect trap, and she had walked right into it. There was no way out for her now. No lies she could spin, no excuses she could make. She had been exposed in the most public, humiliating way possible, and she had no one to blame but herself. I could still hear the murmurs from inside, the quiet gasps, the hushed conversations as people processed what they had just witnessed. I could imagine her sitting there, frozen, her face red with shame, her heart pounding with panic as she realized there was no escaping the truth. And the best part? I didn't even have to yell, didn't have to curse, didn't have to make a scene. I had let the evidence speak for itself. As I made my way toward my car, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I already knew who it was before I even looked. Her, "Please come back. We need to talk." Her, "I can explain everything." Her, "This isn't fair. You didn't have to do this like that." Her, "I made a mistake, but I love you. Please don't do this." I stared at the messages, feeling nothing but disgust. She was desperate now, scrambling for damage control, trying to find a way to manipulate me back into her web of lies. But it was too late for that. I got into my car and started the engine, ignoring the buzzing phone as more messages flooded in. I drove in silence, my mind replaying everything that had led up to this moment. The months of suspicion, the nights I had spent wondering if I was crazy for doubting her, the way she had smiled at me while hiding something so disgusting behind my back. I had given her my trust, my love, my future, and she had thrown it all away for a cheap thrill. By the time I got home, I had already made my decision. I wasn't going to waste another second of my life on her. I pulled my phone out and blocked her number. No more messages, no more calls, no more explanations. She had all the time in the world to explain herself before, and she had chosen to lie instead. I wasn't going to let her waste my time any longer. The next morning, I woke up feeling lighter than I had in months. It was like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, like I had finally broken free from the chains of a toxic relationship that had been slowly suffocating me. I checked my phone, half expecting to see messages from mutual friends or family asking what had happened. Instead, I saw something that made me smirk. She had posted on social media, a long, emotional post, filled with carefully crafted words meant to make her look like the victim. No one deserves to be humiliated the way I was. Relationships are about love, forgiveness, and working through problems together. Some people just don't understand that. I thought we had something real, but I guess I was wrong. Heartbroken, but I will heal. The sheer audacity of it made me laugh out loud. She really thought she could flip the narrative, twist the story to make herself look like the wounded party. As if I had done something to her. As if she hadn't spent months sneaking around behind my back. The comments were mixed. Some people rushed to her defense, saying things like, "You deserve better," and "He never truly loved you if he embarrassed you like that." But others, people who knew the full story, weren't buying it. Maybe you shouldn't have cheated? You got caught. Own up to it. Love and forgiveness? Where was that when you were sneaking around with someone else? I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The truth was already out there. And no amount of fake tears or social media pity posts could erase what had happened. She could try to rewrite the story all she wanted. But at the end of the day, she had destroyed her own life. Over the next few weeks, the fallout was brutal. For her, not for me. The guy she had cheated with? He disappeared the moment things got messy. He was nowhere to be found when she needed someone to lean on. That was karma working faster than I expected. Mutual friends cut ties. People who had once admired her started to distance themselves. Her reputation, which she had spent years carefully building, was now permanently stained. And me? I moved on. I focused on myself, on my career, on building a life that didn't include someone who had so little respect for me. And with every passing day, I felt stronger. One night, months later, I got a message from an unknown number. Unknown. "Hey, I just wanted to say I'm sorry for everything. I miss you. Can we talk?" I didn't even hesitate. I deleted the message and went on with my life. Because she wasn't a part of it anymore.